Nigeria Center for Disease Control records 269 new COVID-19 infections. 2 persons injured as Ondo Transport Union leadership turns bloody. In international news, New York City movie theaters reopen after 1 year of COVID-19 closure. And in sport, UFC lightweight champion Israel Adesanya says he will bounce back after first defeat.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) has re-registered 269 new COVID-19 cases on Sunday in 18 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The total number of coronavirus infections in Nigeria is now 158,506. NCDC also gave a report of 5 deaths and 80 community recoveries in Kwara State alone. This time, Lagos has kept being in the list of states credited with infections as Enugu led the chart with 78 cases. Auchi packed 37, Rivers also recorded 22. 5 other states recorded cases in double digits as well, while 10 more recorded cases in single digits. The quest for who rules the Ondo State Transport Union has turned bloody. 2 members are reportedly injured in a factional clash of the State Transport Union workers. The members were attacked by others loyal to the suspended leader of the union. Ondo State government had recently suspended NURTW and the Rail Transport Employers Association of Nigeria over security concerns. Governor Rotimi Akeredolu says the suspension was necessary because of security reports suggesting an imminent clash between the 2 factions. The People's Democratic Party has cleared all the chairmanship and councillorship positions in the Delta local government elections. Chairman of the State's Independent Electoral Commission, Mike Ogbodu, declared the election results in Asaba on Sunday. Ogbodu says there was no recorded incidents of violence during and after the election across the state. Meanwhile, an APC councillorship candidate, Samson Uwadulu, is not happy with the election results in Oshimili North local government area. Uwadulu says he won the election in Isele Azabwa Ward 6 in Oshimili North local government area. Lawyer Femi Falana has denied ownership of an Abuja property in Maitama. He says the claim is false, that he bought the property from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Falana says he initially had interest in the property but withdrew from it before the transaction was made. We'll take a break, and when we come back, it will be time for African Stories. Please stay with us.
Coming up, African Stories. Guinea kicks off its COVID-19 vaccination campaign. And later, international news. New York City movie theaters reopen after 1 year of COVID-19 closure.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, Africa News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Guinea launched its official vaccination campaign against COVID-19 with Chinese vaccines on Friday in the capital, Conakry. Frontline health and religious personnel and older citizens above 65 are getting vaccinated first. A batch of China-donated COVID-19 vaccines arrived in the country on Wednesday.
Guinea has joined several of its West African neighbors in rolling out its COVID-19 vaccine drive. Healthcare workers, frontline staff, and those over 65 will be given priority.
As you know, this vaccine is intended for frontline staff. These are health workers. Then there will be workers in strategic positions and the elderly in our country. Ultimately, we want to vaccinate 20% of our population. We will do it gradually. We will start here in Conakry first because the city is home to more than 90% of our frontline cases. Then it will be the turn for the neighboring prefectures. And finally, we will go through some prefectures where the cases are very active.
The country has also received 200,000 doses of the Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine. The doses were donated by China.
Many countries are asking for the COVID-19 vaccine, and it is very difficult for developing countries to access it. To help these countries get these vaccines, China promised to make them a global public good so that they would be accessible and affordable in developing countries. To this end, China has been working hard to make Guinea one of the first countries to benefit from Chinese vaccine donations so that the country can vaccinate its population as soon as possible.
Guinea's vaccination campaign is set to run for several months. The country hopes to vaccinate nearly 70% of its population.
Economists say an increase in South Africa's national minimum wage, which took effect 8 days ago, will likely lead to further job losses in the agricultural sector, where employers say they may not be able to sustain the increase. Correspondent Angela Coppola has the story.
The agricultural sector continues to operate during the COVID-19 lockdown. It contributes about 3% to GDP. Around 900,000 people are employed in the sector, and it provides much needed food security for the country. The minimum wage increase may affect this.
Farmers will obviously look at ways and means, one, to cut down on labor cost. In other words, they will look at mechanization as an option, or they will reduce the number of workers. And the only way that you can actually reduce numbers if you close down certain parts of your agricultural business.
The agricultural sector covers a wide spectrum of subsectors, some of which don't need a lot of workers. But there are sectors like deciduous fruits, table grapes and wool, which do require workers.
And that's where a national minimum wage can have a serious impact. One, on obviously on the profitability of a commercial farmer, and secondly, also on the possibility of creating more jobs. And at the end of the day, it's workers that suffer as a result of a national minimum wage, which is then unaffordable.
It's only the farm workers who are directly affected because the 16% increase in the minimum wage only applies to them. Workers in the rest of the agricultural value chain aren't affected. Agri-SA wants the government to take a different approach.
Government need to relax the onerous compliance measures that are built into, one, labor laws, secondly, into the national minimum wage, and also other laws that might have an impact on the profitability of the agriculture sector.
South Africa's unemployment rate is 32.5%, and Agri-SA says that tackling that should be the focus.
Our first priority now should be to get everyone into a job as soon as possible. Unemployment is the biggest driver of poverty, and we've seen rising poverty in rural areas all over South Africa.
It's all about the minimum wage. It's also about profitability of those commercial farms. So it's important that there's a compromise found.
Uganda has received the second batch of 100,000 doses of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine from India on Sunday. The first batch of 864,000 AstraZeneca vaccines had arrived on Friday through the COVAX facility. The Ministry of Health says although the country's vaccination program was officially launched today, Monday, it will be rolled out nationwide on Wednesday. The ministry says the doses will be used to vaccinate persons that provide essential services and are at high risk of exposure, including elderly persons, healthcare workers, teachers, and soldiers. The health ministry says Uganda needs at least 45 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to inoculate the country's 45 million population and extra doses for the refugee community. China has donated about 300,000 doses of Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccines to the country. Uganda is working on technical processes for receiving them. The ministry reported as of Friday, Uganda had registered nearly 41,000 cumulative confirmed cases of COVID-19, 15,000 recoveries, and 334 deaths since the first case was reported in late March last year.
When we return, international news. New York City movie theaters reopen after 1 year of COVID-19 closure. And later, sport. Israel Adesanya says he will bounce back after first defeat.
You are watching AN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Movie theaters in New York City opened on Friday for the first time in almost a year. For now, it's only at a quarter capacity, but it's a sign the Big Apple is coming back slowly as the vaccines flow and the pandemic starts to wind down. Correspondent John Terrett reports.
If you've ever been to New York for work or vacation, the chances are you've seen the two big multi-screen movie houses on the iconic 42nd Street, AMC Empire and the Regal.
Truth be told, you can't really miss them because these two theatres are where Hollywood holds its premieres on the East Coast. And now, for the first time in about a year, New York movie theatres are open once again. Now, AMC will open 13 movie theatres around the city, and Regal says it's going to wait until COVID restrictions in Los Angeles are lifted before it reopens.
I am so looking forward to it.
I ain't scared. I'm definitely not scared. I like movies. I like flicks.
It's only 25% capacity with a 50-person limit for now. The rest of New York State was allowed to reopen under these guidelines back in October. But densely populated New York City, with everyone living on top of one another in high-rise apartments, is a special case. So it's a definite sign the city is coming back. Inside, masks are required at all times, except when you're seated or eating and drinking.
There's no city in the world for movies like New York City, not even Los Angeles.
Arash Azizi is a cinephile, a film producer and writer. You'll find him at most film festivals. We met at another iconic Manhattan movie house, the Village East Cinema on 2nd Avenue.
And there are films that have been released in limited fashion in some countries like South Korea or China, where there were more openings, or other cities in the United States, but now want to have that New York audience.
Not far away in the Times Square area, it's a very different tale for now. Live entertainment venues, including Broadway theatres, are allowed to reopen at limited capacity from April the 2nd.
It's heartbreaking to see these famous locations standing idle. No marquee lights on, no one hurriedly dining before a show, no taxis dropping off late arrivals just before the curtain goes up, and no stars.
The trouble is, Broadway has stated it will stay closed until the end of May, and live theatre is so expensive to put on, it remains to be seen if producers will, or even can, offer live plays and musicals when most of the seats will be empty. Still, one step at a time, as they say, and at least we have movies to go and see now. Some see an online-only future for movies. though Arash thinks nothing beats the big screen experience. It just doesn't.
Laughing at just the right moments, gasping at just the right moments, or talking, or even the conversations before and after the film, the way it's a social event, it's an integral part of the movie experience. It's what cinema was made to be, really.
So the place that's featured in so very many much-loved movie scenes is now featuring movies on the big screens once again. And one day soon, I'm sure, there'll be a movie about the COVID era and how it unfolded here in the Big Apple.
Dubai International Airport has launched a new integrated face recognition system to fast-track passport control procedures and provide better travel experience. Aviation Hub in the United Arab Emirates installed a wide coverage of ground facilities that allows smart face recognition, which will unburden travelers from the paperwork requested in traditional check-ins, security inspections and boarding. Given the set of networked devices, the airport is now able to conduct passenger identity checks by reading biometrics of their faces at various points, including lounges and boarding gates. The system takes under 10 seconds for each recognition. After it has been widely installed, workforce at the airport will also be largely freed, as travelers will no longer have to make contact with airport staff throughout their whole boarding procedures. Italian Health Ministry says the country reported nearly 21,000 COVID-19 infections on Sunday, marking the fifth straight day the new cases had topped 20,000. As of Sunday, the national tally reached 3,067,486 since the epidemic broke out in the country in late February last year. Italy also registered 207 COVID-19 deaths, taking its toll to nearly 100,000. The new antivirus decree, which became effective on Saturday, mandates closure of schools in areas where there are more than 250 infections per 100,000 residents in a period of 7 days. Under the new decree, schools, hairdressers, barbershops and beauty salons will have to close in regions designated to be at high risk of infections. Italian Health Minister Roberto Speranza said on Sunday the second quarter will be a decisive period of the country's vaccination program, expecting at least half of the population will be vaccinated by this summer. Speranza also expressed open attitude towards vaccine cooperation with Russia. He said, quote, "Nationalistic barriers make no sense," end quote.
Up next, sport. UFC champion Israel Adesanya says he will bounce back after first defeat. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, African News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit. We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, 31-year-old Israel Adesanya says he has no regret over his failed attempts to become two-weight world championship. He says he will return at the 205-pound ranks for another shot at UC shots. Liverpool has lost to Fulham in a sixth consecutive defeat at Anfield. The club's hope for a top four finish is drifting further. Klopp's manager, Jurgen Klopp, says he's going through one of his worst runs as a manager. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a great evening.